The Baltimore Police Evidence System showed Maya Whitaker's encrypted laptop as received before Maya had even left the Chesapeake Federal Systems Center. The custody record carried a certification time of 3:41 in the afternoon. At that exact time, a security camera inside the federal building showed Maya seated at her workstation. The laptop was open in front of her. Both records could not be true. Maya knew nothing about the police entry yet. She was still reviewing financial data connected to Meridian Shield Technologies, a government cybersecurity contractor that had received millions of dollars through federal service agreements. For almost 2 years, Maya had worked as the lead digital forensics advisor on the investigation. Very few people outside the federal task force knew that. To most employees in the building, she was simply a technical consultant who arrived early, carried the same worn leather satchel, and drove an older silver sedan. That was useful. The investigation depended on people under scrutiny, believing nobody important was looking directly at them. Late that afternoon, Maya found another irregularity. A payment authorization tied to Meridian Shield had been edited after approval. The amount had not changed. The receiving account had. She opened the audit history. Someone using access connected to a local law enforcement network had entered the file several weeks earlier. Maya called Supervisory Special Agent Tessa Rowan. "I found another police side access point." Tessa was quiet for a moment. "Send it through the federal channel only. No Baltimore contact?" "Not yet." Maya understood. Someone with local access might already know the investigation was closing in. Across the city, Lieutenant Grant Barlow was preparing a different version of events. An anonymous message had reached his intelligence unit that morning. It contained Maya's name and one accusation. She was supposedly preparing to destroy federal cyber evidence. No attached files. No identified witness. No explanation of how the source knew. Barlow treated it as enough to move. Meridian Shield executive Gavin Mercer had appeared in financial reports for weeks. Yet Barlow continued describing him internally as a business contact who required further verification. Maya received no such patience. By mid-afternoon, Barlow had authorized an arrest operation. He also ordered the evidence unit to prepare intake paperwork for the laptop he expected officers to seize. Caleb Sutton sat at the evidence desk when the package entered the system. He opened the custody form. Item description: encrypted federal laptop. Owner: Maya Whitaker. Status: received. Caleb looked toward the empty intake counter. Nothing had arrived. He walked into Sergeant Marin Caldwell's office. "This says we already have the laptop." Marin glanced at the screen. "Barlow wants the paperwork ready." Ready isn't the same as received. He approved the operation. Caleb looked back at the form. The final certification field had already been completed. He almost asked Marin to reopen it. Instead, he returned to his desk. Outside the Chesapeake Center, police vehicles began arriving before Maya finished work. Nora Bell, from the local investigative desk, received a police advisory describing an afternoon arrest involving a primary cyber evidence suspect. The advisory included a location and a time. It did not include a charging document. Nora saved the email. By the time Maya stepped through the federal building's glass doors, 2 news cameras were already positioned beyond the parking barrier. Grant Barlow stood beside an unmarked police SUV. "Maya Whitaker?" She stopped. "Yes." "Place your bag on the ground." Maya looked once at the officers, then at the reporters. Someone had arranged the public part before speaking to her. She lowered the satchel. Barlow opened it and removed the encrypted laptop. "Is this yours?" "Yes." An officer placed it inside a numbered evidence pouch. Maya saw that the barcode label had already been printed. She said nothing. The pouch left the parking lot after 4 in the afternoon. At police headquarters, Caleb received it at the intake counter. He placed the barcode beneath the scanner. The system beeped once. A warning appeared. Item already received. Duplicate intake attempt. Caleb checked the pouch seal. Then he opened the custody history. 3:41. He looked at the wall clock. The laptop had just arrived. According to the department's own record, it had been there for nearly half an hour before police ever took it from Maya. Grant Barlow entered the interview room, carrying a folder that already treated Maya Whitaker's laptop as established evidence. Maya sat across from him with her hands resting on the table. Barlow opened the custody inventory. Your computer was recovered in connection with compromised federal records. Maya looked at the page. When was it entered into evidence? Barlow paused. That isn't what we're discussing. It matters. He turned another page. We're discussing why files connected to Meridian Shield were found on a device registered to you. I work on those files. For who? Maya did not answer. Her federal assignment was still protected. Barlow leaned back. You had access. You had the computer. Now we have the computer. Maya looked at the custody form again. Something about the certainty in his wording bothered her. Not the accusation. The sequence. Downstairs, Caleb Sutton had reached the same problem from the other direction. The evidence system required him to complete the end-of-shift reconciliation. One field remained open. Physical intake matches certified custody record. Caleb left it blank. Sergeant Marin Caldwell came to his desk. You need to close that item. I can't. Why? Caleb turned his monitor toward her. The first scanner read, showed the laptop entering the room after 4. The certified record showed it received earlier. Marin studied both times. Barlow's team prepared the entry before the arrest. They didn't prepare it. Caleb pointed to the status. They certified it. Marin lowered her voice. Leave it pending. That keeps it from closing. I know. For the first time that day, she sounded less certain than Barlow. Across town, Owen Tate received a preservation request at the Chesapeake Federal Systems Center. Owen managed physical security records for the building. He pulled the camera feed covering Maya's secured work area and the employee exit. At 3:41, Maya was still inside the lab. The laptop sat on her desk. Later footage showed her closing it, placing it in her satchel, and leaving the building. Owen copied the relevant segment into the federal archive. He added no opinion. The camera time was enough. Nora Bell was reviewing something different. The police advisory announcing Maya as a primary cyber evidence suspect had reached her newsroom before the arrest. She opened the original email header. The send time was earlier than the first police evidence scan. Nora called her editor. Hold the follow-up. Why? Because they told us what the case was before their evidence system could have received the main evidence. She forwarded the original advisory to the station's attorney and kept the source file unchanged. Back at headquarters, Caleb finally opened the department's internal ethics portal. He did not accuse Barlow of framing anyone. He reported one discrepancy. A custody record had been certified before the physical item entered evidence. The report automatically routed to the county inspector's office. Within an hour, the same notice reached the federal liaison. Tessa Rowan read it from a secure workstation. She already had Owen's video. Now she had a second independent timestamp. Tessa contacted federal counsel. By early evening, an emergency evidence integrity hold had been issued. Baltimore police was ordered to preserve the original custody record, scanner history, system audit trail, interview files, and arrest documentation. No record connected to Maya's laptop could be edited or replaced. Noah Parker, a federal cyber analyst assigned to the task force, compared the first set of files as soon as they arrived. Police custody certification, 341, federal camera, Maya still inside the secured lab. First physical scanner read, after 4. He checked system clock synchronization. All 3 systems were within seconds of the same reference time. The discrepancy could not be blamed on a bad clock. Barlow received the preservation notice during Maya's second interview. His expression changed when he reached the line requiring the original audit history. He went directly to Marin. Who reported the custody issue? I don't know. Can the certification be corrected? Marin stared at him. Corrected to what? The actual intake time. That would change the record after a federal hold. Barlow understood the answer. For the first time, the paperwork he had treated as an advantage had become something he could not safely touch. The next morning, an independent magistrate reviewed the custody history alongside the building footage and scanner log. The principal evidence package could not establish a valid sequence. Maya was ordered released while the investigation continued under outside review. She walked out through a side entrance. No cameras were waiting there. Tessa Rowan stood beside a plain government sedan. Maya stopped. How much do they know? Enough to understand the laptop record was built too early. And my role? Still sealed until tomorrow. Maya nodded. Tessa opened the passenger door. The affidavit gets unsealed in the morning. Behind them, Caleb's unfinished reconciliation remained in the evidence system. The final box was still empty. He had refused to certify something the scanner could not prove. The federal affidavit was unsealed the next morning. It identified Maya Whitaker as the lead digital forensics advisor assigned to the task force investigating Meridian Shield Technologies. Grant Barlow learned that through the filing. By then, Maya's position was not what had broken his case. The custody history had already done that. Federal reviewers reconstructed the sequence from the untouched audit trail. At 3:41 in the afternoon, Barlow's credentials moved Maya's laptop from a planned collection entry into completed evidence custody. The physical scanner did not read the sealed pouch until after 4. Owen Tate's security footage showed the laptop still inside the Chesapeake Federal Systems Center during that gap. Noah Parker checked the clocks on both systems. They were synchronized closely enough that timing error could not explain the difference. The record claimed possession before possession occurred. Investigators then reviewed how Maya had become the target. The anonymous tip contained her name and an accusation, but provided no supporting file, identified witness, or verifiable source. Meridian Shield executive Gavin Mercer had already appeared in payment records tied to the federal inquiry. Barlow's notes continued describing Mercer as a business contact requiring further confirmation. Maya received an arrest plan within hours. The administrative panel documented that difference without trying to assign a motive Barlow had never admitted. One person received additional verification despite an established financial trail. The other was treated as an identified suspect from an unsupported message. Barlow's disciplinary hearing focused on the evidence record. He had authorized the false custody status. He later relied on that status while questioning Maya. The department had also sent a media advisory identifying her as a primary cyber evidence suspect before the laptop reached police intake. His attorney argued that the early custody entry was preparation for an expected seizure. The audit trail defeated that explanation. The field did not say planned. It said received. Changing it required Barlow's supervisory credentials. His termination was upheld on appeal. The city marked him not eligible for rehire and permanently barred him from supervisory, investigative, or evidence command positions within its departments. Maren Caldwell faced a narrower finding. She had not created the false certification. She had seen that no physical laptop was present and allowed the workflow to continue anyway. She lost her evidence room supervisory assignment and returned to non-command administrative work. Caleb Sutton received a formal reprimand. He recognized the discrepancy before anyone outside the unit knew about it, but did not report it immediately. The panel also recorded that he refused to countersign the reconciliation and left the original scanner history unchanged. His hesitation remained part of the finding. So did the action that prevented the false custody sequence from becoming fully verified. The public correction followed the administrative one. Maya's arrest entry was rescinded. Every agency that received the original suspect bulletin received a replacement notice stating that the arrest had been invalidated after an evidence integrity review. The police department was also required to send a written correction to the same news organizations that had received its pre-arrest advisory. Nora Bell's newsroom placed the correction beside its earlier coverage rather than burying it in a later story. The station changed its own reporting rule afterward. An unnamed police briefing could no longer support the label primary suspect unless a warrant, charging document, or attributable official filing existed. Maya resolved her civil claim against the city through a settlement covering the wrongful detention, legal expenses, and the public correction requirement. No ceremony accompanied it. Her laptop remained with an independent evidence custodian until federal technicians confirmed that its contents had not been altered. Then it was returned. Maya went back to the Meridian Shield investigation. That case continued on its own evidence. Baltimore changed the system that had allowed Barlow to create an event before it happened. A future evidence item could begin in one state: planned collection. Officers could prepare the case number, description, expected location, and barcode before an operation. The system would not treat the item as physically possessed. The next status was controlled by hardware. Received. Only an evidence scanner could create it. The scanner generated the first custody timestamp and storage location automatically. Supervisors could not backdate that time. Manual conversion from planned to received was disabled. Any attempted override generated a permanent alert outside the evidence unit. Several months later, another detective prepared a warrant involving a company laptop. Before the operation, the evidence screen showed the item description and barcode. The status remained planned collection. Hours later, an evidence technician returned with the sealed device. She passed the barcode beneath the intake scanner. A locker location appeared. The timestamp followed. Only then did the screen change. Received. The evidence arrived first. The record followed. This story is fictional.